Alright, you know what time it is. We hit Master 1 today. I used Dinomorphia because they released new support. So this is how the deck is looking for me currently. Droll for super heavy because it means your board's less insane. I don't like it. But also, I never had a single super heavy player do anything meaningful, so... Like, there was one game where I only opened Impermed, and I Impermed the Link one, and then they ended on, like, Barone plus, Dissipator, which, is whatever. There's no way that's what the deck is supposed to do. I don't know if people are just that bad. If you go first, you just turbo out Rexsturm and stare at them. They can make Baguska, by the way, which is annoying. But usually not game losing. Just something to keep in mind is that you want to be thinking about Baguska when you're playing against Super Heavy Samurai. Because all your monsters have 0 defense. Intact is crazy good. Because you finally have a good counter trap that beats Ash, which we're not playing because it's not frequent enough that maxx is good enough that you actually care about negating maxx. It's just... It's usually like 2 draws. And other decks are really bad at playing through Rexsturm on board when you have like 1,000 or less life points. So it's you know, the big thing to notice here is I've basically gone all in on like turboing out Rexsturm and protecting the ability to turbo out Rexsturm. I think Impact helps a lot with that. If you don't have Kentrigina and Rexsturm out, it's a little awkward. The biggest thing I would consider here is getting more Brute. Just because Brute offers interaction that also forwards your plays. It's the same sort of reason I'd consider Torrential. And I think Torrential right now might be a little better than Flames, but don't quote me on that. That's basically with the idea that it'll interrupt your opponent and allow you to further your own plays by having your monsters float and getting the effects in the graveyard. However, I just think Fair Flames is better. Don't listen to me. Don't play Torrential. It's not fantastic. But yeah, the idea is Drolls that it makes it so going second's more likely. Judgment's crazy. Like, sometimes, like, I had a Judgment to tier counter trap a couple times while I was climbing. That was pretty big to have Judgment and Sonic. The other thing, by the way, you can consider is Reversion. I'd consider Reversion at 1. Because setting it off of Theresia when you have like a Judgment and a Judgment, Strike, and access to a fusion, is just like really nice to get essentially a second Judgment. I don't run Reversion. I think it's too bricky. Like if you draw an awkward hand, Reversion is just a dead card in hand. And why play a card like that when you cannot? It's the same sort of reason. I would actually kind of low-key recommend cutting Miscellaneousaurus, but it's almost always like okay. It can be big if your opponent tries to like triple tack or Raigeki your Rexsturm, just not affected by activated effects. But frequently, it's easy for them to like play around Miss via Infirm or something. Once again, Judgment comes back and play. But even then, I'd usually save the Judgment if you have a different way to, like, salvage your Rexsturm, like making another one. I'd actually play a third Rexsturm. This Psychic and Punisher isn't supposed to be here. It was here from when I played Ash, and then I kept forgetting to put something useful. I'd probably consider Baguska would be the most straightforward one, as basically an ability to make Zeus without being targeted before you get out. And the other thing I would consider would legitimately be another Zodiac, and it would be exactly Dryden. Because Dryden being able to, like, going into Chakanine, then Zeus, popping a card, and then Borbo can be pretty big to, like, force an Imperm or something. I don't think changing those cards is a big deal. 2 Rexterm, you definitely need at least 2. I would probably fit in a 3rd. Phoenix didn't really come up, but honestly, I kept wanting to put in Cerberus because of other people making Baguska. Zeus didn't come up on this run. Zeus used to come up more frequently, I feel like, but it just hadn't been coming up, where it was just better to, like, do my mainline plays rather than, like, going into Zeus and clearing my own board. But I like Zeus in theory. Honestly, Zeus might be cuttable. And if you're cutting Zeus, you probably want to cut the Zoo cards and just put in different ones. But yeah, I like the hand traps I was playing. I don't think Droll's like a bad hand trap to be playing, but I feel like your hands that are going to win you games anyways are going to beat the board whether or not you have Droll. But also super heavy can FTK is my understanding, but I never saw them do anything like that, and I don't know if it's because my opponents are bad. Kind of hard for me to say. We're on 2 Diplos, by the way, for, like, domain reasons, essentially. I think you could cut down to 1 Diplos if you really wanted to, but you already run out of names and decks so fast, and you have no way to recycle them, except Alert, which I, once again, recommend running at 1. I think you could run more Alert. Like, I think you could radically change the deck, and if Rexterm weren't legal, I would advise it. Where the idea would be you'd like max out on Brute and Torrential and stuff like that. And the idea would be you'd be constantly popping your own monsters to clear your opponent's board and to plus yourself and get the other stuff you need. And in that scenario, I think Alert becomes a lot better. The other thing is that Alert is actually pretty crazy if you can activate it on your opponent's turn, summon 2 monsters, get a set, send probably Domain because you have Alert, which means you probably have too many names in grave already. And then in that case, you now get to, what's the phrase? Honestly, not die. Sorry, my brain shut off. You get to make Dulka or Logia, and these can be very big in those scenarios, where you'll be in a point where you're like, okay, the only thing that beats me is a crazy back row. And then Dulka and Logia say, okay, that back row better be a counter trap. Intact is just crazy. You can negate annoying Bestials that would otherwise ruin your day. In particular, Druisworm. If you only have 1, if you see they're on Bestials, Druisworm's the only one you need to negate. Just get it off from hand, basically, and don't let them get to regain, because that will let them, you know, resummon Druisworm. Because Druisworm completely just outs Rexterm in a really bad way for you. But yeah, I felt pretty comfortable with this deck. If Super Heavy weren't in the format, I'd completely cut Troll, and I'd probably put back in Fair Flames. He said not being able to spell. I think Fair Flames is, like, the best... It's just the best way to clear a board or force a negate before you go for, like, a Frenzy or Domain play. Personal opinion. Intact's very good for the deck. It also finally, the other big thing, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, is it gives you a counter trap. Because the counter traps negate battle damage when you're at 2000 or less LP. It gives you a counter trap that's worth activating and getting in graveyard that you can later negate battle damage. By the way, if you do activate this on your opponent's turn, don't activate its effect in graveyard. I have great news for you. You can't die from battle. I think it's very funny that it essentially says you can't die. It ups the damage if they were going to deal less to just being half your life points, or lowers it. It just makes any damage they would deal, battle damage they would deal that turn, half of your LP. So basically, Intact can save you for like 2 turns or something, depending on what's happening exactly. It's very good. I think Dinomorphia getting another good counter trap was like crazy good for the deck. I just wish they'd print a different 8 other than Rexstorm. I think this card looks cool, and I like the battle phase attack modulation effect. Just the fact that your opponent can't activate effects on the field is just a really dull way to win games, in my opinion. But I still overall enjoy the decks, and sometimes you get into interesting game states. I kind of like going second with it just because of how it feels to like break boards and stuff, which is the huge reason for Strike, is that Strike, like, not only does this out Ash, this also outs Omni negates. So like frequently you'll be able to, like, if you open like Strike or Intact plus one of your fusions, like that breaks a lot of boards essentially. And those are actually the scenarios where I think Rexstorm feels like fair is not quite the right word, but when your opponent has like a crazy board and you just get to go, okay, Frenzy plus Strike, it feels so good. And those are the moments where like, yeah, this is deserved. But yeah, these are just consistency cards. Duality didn't like me. Duality kept revealing like really bad reveals. Like there was one where I was like kind of set up, where well, I wasn't set up at all actually, but I had Diplos and then like Imperm and I think it was Intact on board, and I didn't have the Therese Engrave. And then I freaking duality'd and proceeded to reveal Droll Diplos when I'm up against Labyrinth. And like I took a Droll because I had a domain. I finally drew a domain that turn, and I was like, okay. I have to take Droll so I have the card in deck. Oh gosh. But yeah, the counter trap stopping them from responding is just very good, shockingly. I do think your linear game plan is good enough, and that your desire to draw specific cards is enough. That maxx is good. Also, it'll burn Ash. And it burning Ash means you don't have to Strike or Intact Ash, which is cool, unless it drew multiples. But pretty sure that's about it. I don't think anything else is too specifically interesting. I basically did this change when I started it, and then I never touched a deck from when I started playing. It felt pretty solid. Anything else I want to mention? Shell's a funny card. I do not recommend playing it, but it's a very funny card. Oh, the other reason I'm not playing more Sonic is, like, Sonic can be important for keeping people off of certain things. The problem is you need to control a monster. And needing to control a monster can be more difficult than it should be. But it is still, like, a worthwhile target to have. It's very good, and it's the sort of card where you get to, like, stop your opponent's play and then plus to yourself, which is always nice. But I honestly kind of think Sonic is cuttable. Like, it's kind of niche, honestly. Like, I think Second Brute might be better than Sonic, because it gives a Kintragina another good target to copy. Can force things out, and Brute, like, pluses you as well while destroying your opponent's stuff. Well, destroying their back row, too, which is very important for this deck. Since back row is the only thing that realistically can deal with Rexstorm most of the time. But yeah. Okay, I've rambled on. I had a bunch of long pauses too. Oh, just a side note, you never make Stealthbergia. This is here for Frenzy material. You never make this card. Also, the Prosperity Banish is always Stealthbergia, whatever you're replacing Psychic and Punisher with, unless you're playing Ash, in which case Pep is fine. But I'd still, like, you banish one of these, you banish Pep, and then you banish the other 4 of these ones, because those are the cards that just, like, never come up. But yeah, hypothetically, you could cut these 2 cards and put in 2 different cards. But, like, on occasion, third Stealthbergia can be kind of useful. But also, if I had another Rexstorm, I'd play third Rexstorm over Stealthbergia. And like I said before, Pep shouldn't be in here. Okay. I think I mentioned everything. Misk is like fine. I'm playing it because I have it in a Royal. You can't not play the Royal. I'm just saying, like it's mandatory. Sorry. All right, I'm gonna shut up now. Hopefully you enjoyed me rambling. I plan to upload a video of one where I went second and broke a board that I think was kind of interesting. We'll see. All right, bye.